I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Music Theory Tuition series where I work with you step by step through the ABRSM Discovering Music Theory grades. I'll work through every single exercise and explain everything you need to know. You can access information about the books I have available to help you on my website. Go to sharonbill.com. For advert-free and longer lessons, you can become a patron at patreon.com/SharonBill. If you can give me a like, that would be super, and please do subscribe to my channel to stay updated. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SharonBill. Let's move on to page 46 of the Grade 5 Discovering Music Theory workbook. We're now going to look at the topic of cadences. Now, cadences are a particular arrangement of chords. It's a prescribed formula, a particular progression of chords that create an ending to a piece of music or a phrase. So it's like an ending or a mini end point. And we can have chords or cadence progressions that make a piece or a section sound completely finished and final, or we can have sections that leave us hanging. Now you'll notice here in these examples that we've got 4 notes now. We're dealing with triads just the same, and so we're in C major here. We've got no key signature, and here's chord 1, and if you notice we've got a C, an E and a G, and so all that's happened is we've duplicated a note. We've duplicated the root note here. It's still the same C chord, it's still a triad of C, E and G, but we've duplicated the root. So we can see that we're in C major here, and so chord 1 is C, E, G, and chord 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, D, E, F, G is G, B, D. And we can see here we've got a G, a B, a D, and then the G is duplicated at the top. And the root chord is still a root chord because C is still at the root and G is still at the root of the chord. We've duplicated the root note, and it doesn't matter that it's duplicated in different places. The important fact is that the root note is at the root of the chord. It can be duplicated anywhere else within the piece. And here we have chord 5-1, which is called a perfect cadence, and that's the most final sounding chord. If you play that, it's kind of a ta-da, finished, hey presto, this is the end of the section or the piece. Because chord 5, because it's got the 7th degree of the scale, it's got the leading note. The leading note always leaves us hanging and pulls. It's got to rise to finish on the tonic. And so because chord 5 has got that leading note, the 7th degree of the scale that's pulling to go home, that T-do finish, if you think like T is just another way of saying 7 to 8, T-do 7 to 8. And so chord 5 leaves you hanging and it pulls to go home. It's always pulling to go home to chord 1. It's a very strong chord, harmonically chord 5 is. And so we call that a perfect cadence because it's a kind of a massive closure in harmonic terms. So let's look at what we've got in this next progression. So again, we're in C major, so we can see that because no key signature and we've got no raised 7ths, and we can see that we've been told that chord 1 is a C chord, so we've got chord 1 and chord 4 here. So we know that chord 1 is C, E, G, and C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4. F, A, C is our F chord, our chord 4. And let's see what we've got here. We've got an F, a C, an F and an A. So it's still chord 4 in root position because the root note F is at the bottom, but we can see the root note is duplicated in the middle of the chord now. That's fine, it's still a root chord, because F is the bottom, the root of the note in the bass. And then here we have a C, C, E, G. So we've still got C chord, chord 1, C is at the root, and then it's duplicated that root note and then continued the chord in these top 2 voices. We say voices, even though it could be, say, for a piano or an organ or something. We've just got different voicings of the parts of the chord. Now, of course, chord 1 is the tonic that makes us feel like we're home. That's the tone key. That's our home chord. That's the end where everything sounds nice and finished. Chord 4 does not sound finished, but it's much more gentle than chord 5, so it kind of leaves you hanging, but not quite in such a strong sense. And actually, as you go from chord 4 to 1, it provides a sort of a gentle amen sounding finish. It just sort of melts away into chord 1. So that's the plagal cadence. And then finally, we come to the imperfect cadence, which you see finishes on chord 5. So we're in C major, so we've got chord 2, and then we've got chord 5. So if chord 1 is C, chord 2 is D, E, F, G is chord 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chord G is the 5th degree of the scale, the chord built on that. So we have C, E, G is chord 1. We're not using that, it's just our reference point. D, F, A, G, B, D. So here we have a D, an F and an A. There's our chord 2 in root position because D is at the bass. It's duplicated and then we get the rest of the chord. So we've got still a triad of D, F, A with the D duplicated in the 2 lower parts. It's still root position because D is the bass, the root of the chord, the lowest note in the bass. And then we have a G, B, D, and then the root note is duplicated right at the topmost part. And anything to chord 5, so it could be 2 to 5, it could be 1 to 5, it could be 4 to 5, anything to chord 5 is an imperfect cadence simply because it leaves you hanging. It does not sound finished. It's not resolved homewards to home. That leading note hasn't resolved, it's just left you hanging. It doesn't sound finished at all, hence we call it an imperfect cadence. I do suggest you just sort of play these if you can just get hold of a piano, and even if you play them in the simplest form, just play the 3 notes, you don't have to worry about duplicating the root, and just hear how they leave you hanging. Alternatively, you could play the arpeggios and it will still give you a sense of the harmonies that are going on. Because do remember, of course, yes, we're writing music here, we're looking at music theory, but this is always going to be played. Music is always going to be heard, and these musical effects are what composers choose to create a certain atmosphere in their music. So if we want a nice strong finish, we've got the perfect cadence. If we want a more gentle closure but still full closure harmonically speaking, we've got the plagal cadence. And if we want to leave the listener hanging, if it's not really over and we just need to leave that section hanging, it's not the end of the story yet musically, we have our imperfect cadence. I hope this is helpful to your studies. Please do like and subscribe to stay updated. If you'd like to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee, and for advert-free lessons, you can become a patron. Do visit my website where you'll find many resources available to help you. Visit sharonbill.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.